Morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Greg Wolf and Andy Serling as we kick off another weekend here, a three-day weekend. Friday card. How's everything going, Greg?
Doing well, yeah.
You crushed the Knicks. You brought the Knicks streak to us. Well, they had actually lost.
Part of a tough loss. 3 starters out. I lost another guy last night, Hartenstein, I think. So they're banged up. DiVincenzo played
You're not
huge.
really a Knicks fan, though. You're a
I'm not. I'm a
Warriors
Warriors fan. I'm from the Bay Area.
Warriors are
But
kind
it was
of
the
picking up a
first
little.
sporting event I attended ever at Madison Square
Really?
Garden. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun.
Wow. It's a great place to go to a game.
Oh yeah.
And the Knicks are sort of back, so it was probably pretty exciting, though, unfortunately. They're banged up, but they'll be back. Anyway, we have 8 to talk about today. We'll get to work on that. And Greg and I actually disagree through much of the day, which is good. We can have a little fun with that. We'll start out by going over to Naira Bets. Head on over. Do we lose graphics, guys? If we do, and you just to verbalize picks, there we go. Use the promo code MATCH200. We will match for $200 of your initial deposit. Head over to Naira Bets. Also at Naira Bets, you get track stats. Head over and check out those track stats as well. Joel Rosario not looking at track stats, but he is paying attention to his mount. I don't know who that is. Who do you think that is? It's
I'm not going to venture a guess.
it's the 8 horse, and it appears to say Run Happy below it. So is the Run Happy Stakes? I don't know. Anyway, $5,000 hit and split. The late pick 5 today at Aqueduct starts in race number 4 of our 8-race card. A good thing. You want to sign up for that. Want to opt in over at Naira Bets. Cross Country Pick 5 as well. Races 6, 7, 8 here, and 8 and 9 at Oaklawn Park. And all of those races, I believe, will be America's Day at the races 3 to 6. I think the 9th race will be run a little before we're off the air. That's on FS2. Greg and I will be upstairs. Paul will be at Oaklawn, and Maggie will be in the paddock.
Yeah, look
no,
forward to
Richie
it.
will be in the paddock. Maggie's off this week, I believe.
Okay.
No. She's off next week. Maggie is here. I'm sorry. I'm
All right.
confused. I was just discussing next weekend with Eric, and I'm a little confused.
So we have everybody. Just
The
about.
whole team is here.
Look forward to it.
The core team is here. Race number 1. So, calling an audible.
What an ugly beat.
Yeah, I mean, this is a race that got a ridiculously low figure. Time for US had this race a little faster. I don't know. These tracks have gotten so slow. I'm really hoping with it fast track and nice weather this week that the track is not playing as slowly as it's been, and I'm very, very
She's
much
home,
hopeful.
right?
Yes, she was home. Now, the horse that beat her was that big gallop out horse that we had talked about from Saratoga, I want to say for Kenny McPeak, that came and got her at the end. It's not as though she fell apart going the mile the time before that, and I get it. I think she's going to be tough for Eddie Barker, who's been in a big run. You've gone in a very fuzzy direction.
I initially was going to go with her. I kept going back to that race, and it was
She should have won.
It was brutal for me. So I look at a horse who showed at least some ability in that Saratoga debut race that came off the turf against Solo Shot, who's going to run later in the card, which Solo Shot actually had some decent first couple of starts of her career for George Weaver, actually ran pretty good races for the
She's
level.
the funny horse. She's the horse that the barn hated before her debut. Were you
really?
on for the early part of that? I think you must have been on late, because I was on, and I remember I was on with Jonathan, and Jonathan said to me as the race went off, they hate this horse, because he knows the connections, and the horse errs, and we were laughing about it. It just happens. It's not
Yeah.
And George Weaver was interviewed by either Maggie or Acacia after the race, and he was like, and he said the same thing that Jonathan said to me, which was, we didn't like this horse
And she'd
at
win a
all."
stake in her next race.
She did.
Yeah.
Finger Lakes are here.
we
She's
can
running
look.
later.
Yeah.
But now, her last 2 races, she can't run at all anymore. It was very strange. And I remember I think she's a horse that Alex Bregman owns a piece of, and plays for the Astros. And I was messaging with him. And he said, well, she ran a lot better than we heard about the workouts. And Manny Franco apparently had ridden her and said, she's really not. But listen,
They can fool you.
they fool you both ways. A lot of
Yeah.
horses are very good in the morning, and they can't run in the afternoon. And that's my problem. But it was a reasonable race. Listen, she's a price. Who knows? It's a fuzzy.
And yeah, I mean, even the first-time starter in here for Clement, Purpose comes out, but there's not a ton there. The first full to race for Detonate, 0 for 6, all routing on the grass, although the second dam did win a back-to-back on the dirt with an 81 buyer at Philadelphia.
Linda Rice horse, but Linda trained a lot of horses for Tick Stables, so
Yeah.
no surprise she trained it. I think with the 2 Detonate, we'll see what price she is. The odds right now mean absolutely nothing. Obviously, they're going to change dramatically because in this field, if she can run, she's got to be short, right?
Yeah, she's going to be. Yeah. No, she'll be one of the main players in here. Look, natural progression from 2 to 3 for Fast and Frisky off that
I hear
debut.
you.
She's right in the mix.
I
There's
hear
no
you.
one to love in this race.
I'm not going to pick in here now. Right now, she's much shorter, 10-1. I think she should be. I mean, it's funny because she's a horse that I pretty much ignored, and I saw you picked her, and I looked at her a little bit, and I see where you're coming from. She's run well enough in the dirt. There's no reason she couldn't be a contender in this race if she can handle the distance. I believe she's a she. She is a she.
Yeah.
Race number 2, they're he's. It's a 4-horse betting interest. They've got all our picks up, but it's only a 4-horse race with Veasan coming out of our 4 betting interest race. We'll start with the horse you have on top, Joey Freshwater, who is kind of a last time was the time horse, no?
No, I don't know about that.
Well, you wanted to have this horse last time. You know, it's 6-1, I'm just saying, and now you're going to get a much shorter price.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
you
all
want that
mean.
price for sure, but I think this is a horse who's coming into his own and on the improve. This was a nasty weather that day, by the way, wasn't it? I just like how easily he did this. Kendrick Carmouche was just so quiet on this horse when he makes that big move and just easily went by the horse on the front end, the leader in there. Runs the biggest figure he's ever run in his career as his comeback as a 4-year-old. I just think a lot of upside for this horse.
I'm not against him. I picked him second. I see where you're coming from. I feel like I missed the boat last time. I'm not a fan of American Monarch, who's the 7-5 morning line favorite in this race. And listen, there's nobody here that can't win the race. I feel like he found the right field last time. And boy, I feel like he's running against tougher horses today.
I agree with you. Mott apparently feels he's going to wind up being better on the turf. So at some point, they're probably going to switch this horse when the weather gets a little bit better.
Well, to be fair, his best figure is in the turf.
Yep.
That was a long time ago. Wow. Yeah, that's
But that
actually,
seems like
that's
where his
actually a good
future is going to
argument.
be.
Be interesting to see. I just feel like this is a tougher field, sort of a bunch finish. I have to bet Nova Rags. I'm going to be looking to bet horses that were against biases, and we've had more biases in the last couple of months or so than I remember. Since we've come back from the break, we have had consistent biases, either dead rails or gold rails, and we normally have fair surfaces around here, and I hope we can get back to a fair surface because last weekend, with that extraordinarily gold rail all weekend, it makes it tough for a lot of the players. And Nova Rags, before getting off a little bit in the stretch, this horse was glued to the rail for much of the running there, and I believe that's what contributed to his poor performance. And if you get back to his faster races, he's fast enough to win, and he won't be the favorite.
That's interesting. Leanna Williford, Mott's assistant, thought too that last start, maybe they brought him back a little too quick. But he ran pretty good the time before that when he won, although that was, now you're looking at third time back. That was his second start back off a race he needed. This horse, to me, you look a ways back, he has a couple of really huge figures, and I thought he was going to be a breakout, maybe not superstar, but a very good sprinter. It just has not panned out for him.
He's very inconsistent. I'm going to look at Leanna and I have, I have more respect for, as much respect for Leanna as I do anybody, but we have disagreed at times because we look at races differently. And she's not going to look at a dead rail. She's not going to be looking at track biases the way I am. And I believe this horse was hindered by a racetrack that just completely stopped him from doing his running by being buried down in a dead rail. So we'll see.
Obviously, if it's a little bit bigger field, this is a very good race.
I agree. You wish there were more players, but there are 4. Listen, He's My Honey Badger can win this race because he does project to be the speed. Now, I think that Joey Freshwater and Kendrick are going to be right near him, so I don't think he'll be compromised. That could compromise my horse, Nova Rags, who's not that quick. See what happens. Race number 3 coming up. Blake B. Greg loves Blake B. And Blake B. comes off the claim. We'll take a look at his win last time. He got a very good trip and setup in this race and a good ride from Maddie.
Yeah, look, he did. I mean, my top pick in this race was the 6, who scratched, unfortunately. So I scratch into this horse.
He was a big player.
That's probably the biggest scratch on the card. 42 ace or one of them?
Well, he's a scratch dramatically changes the race because the scratch makes it. Listen, Swift Tap was going to be in front anyway. But now Swift Tap doesn't have 42 ace chasing him, and I like Swift Tap to wire the field.
Yeah, you got to take an extra long look at that horse.
He was also wide against a gold rail last time out when he was badly hindered. He was coming off a layoff. He's a horse that's been effective going longer, and I think Swift Tap is going to leave these horses on the merriest of chases.
Yeah, it got a little bit tougher, even for Blake B. with that horse coming out who I liked anyway. But at least at this level, he has some consistency of form and is effective at a mile. But Swift Tap, you have to move up. I probably should have had him higher than 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him anyway, but with the scratch, it moves him up. I'm going to use Lord Gatling, though. I think it's going to be sitting second because Lord Gatling drops back down to a level that he won last time. He was able to wire a field. He can be forward, and I think he's getting some class relief in here. So I'm going to use 4s and 5s in here, and I'm going to try to beat
Yeah, we both have him second. I thought a lot to like with Lord Gatling, but yeah, Swift Tap is going to be nowhere near.
No,
Well, he
he'd
was
probably
7-2
vie,
anyway.
probably vie for favoritism
Yeah.
at this point. I think the scratch, I think if David had to redo the line without the 6 in the race, he would have had Swift Tap lower because he would have, like anybody, recognized that he
Starts the pick 6, by the way.
Yes, starts the pick 6. And of course, race number 4 starts the late pick 5, which has the $5,000 hit and split. You want to opt in over at Naira Bets for that. And I thought race number 4 was a very tough race. And I want to start the conversation with C's Get Degrees.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of the horse to beat if he can refine that form. He's also the speed, along with the number 6 in here, who Jeff Fafa, who's got to refine some form, or I don't know what form he's going to find to win this race. But one of the real questions in this race is how much you trust this horse.
I mean, it is tough. He had been just very consistent, facing so much better company, and then the big drop down, wins for what? Or sorry, runner up for 50, lose Jacobson, lose him to Gregory Prima, and then just does not show up. But fairness, he went to the bench. Maybe something. It's just tough to see for me. We talk about it all the time with David Jacobson. He gets these horses very good, and if you're claiming off him, it can be dangerous.
Well, we saw that Toscano horse win the other day, and he was the first horse in at least 5 months to win more than one race for claim. I think they were 3 for, at the time there was one, claims from Jacobson were 3 for 19, but there were 50 total starts for horses that had been claimed from Jacobson, and they were 0 for 31 with the others. And you do wonder a little bit because you have a horse that runs terribly off the claim, gets claimed by Tom Morley, is now off for 6 months, and comes back running for 2/3 of where he ran.
Not a great sign.
Not a good sign. Obviously a horse who can win this race. You've got him second. I'm going to let this horse beat me. And I also thought he faced real pressure from Jeff Fafa, a horse that I don't think he's good enough. But if C's Get Degrees doesn't show up, what if he gets clear in the lead? But even then, is he good enough to win?
Well, if he gets loose, you never know. I don't know if that's going to be the case because even if C's Get Degrees does not show up, I think he's still going to show speed.
I
Especially
agree.
being fresh.
You would think, especially from the inside, Eric's got to go with him. What is it, the 1 or 1A that you like in this race?
I like the 1.
The worst half of the entry at the short price with the 1A?
He's been facing way tougher company in this spot. He was third to Dr. Chevelle. I realized that was a long time ago, but it wasn't in terms of starts. It was a few starts back. Marsalis, major player he would never be in a race like this. I'd say he'd be 1-9 in here. He'd never be in a race this low. Major class edge against this group and continuing to drop down. I think he's going to find the right spot today.
Right. The problem is he's an entry with a 1A, who on his own would be short here, and you're dragged down. I mean,
Yeah, no
you've
question.
got the 1A to help you, but if you don't love the 1A and you like the 1, I just feel like you're getting bad value. I'm going to avoid the entry. I never get Jacobson right, so he'll probably win. I'm going to bet Tetsu in here. We'll take a look at Tetsu running second, 3 races back. Obviously, the problem with Tetsu is the lack of speed in this race. It's the same problem your horse has, the 1. But at least you have the 1A to help you out potentially. He doesn't have much speed, but I'm going to go on this horse claimed by Rick Dutrow. This is a horse that was running figures that could easily win this race. Claimed from Jacobson, I know, claimed away from Jacobson, and that definitely worries me. It definitely bothers me. But I'm going to hope Rick can get this horse back to his faster races. If he can, he's going to win. But he was claimed from Jacobson as he was on a bit of a downward spiral. And that worries me. Not a fan, are a fan?
This, to me, was one of the most difficult races on the card to handicap. So, I have him 4th. Nothing would really surprise me in this race. I don't have a strong conviction for anybody in the race. C's Get Degrees could show up and could blow this field away.
Certainly possible. Dot Stoller is not impossible
Yeah.
in here. What about Seven Nation Army? I thought he was a little bit dangerous dropping down in this race. Last time out, didn't run as well, but he gets a little bit of a freshening, and he has been facing much better horses, and he does have back form that can beat this field. I was sort of going on that angle with him.
Cowan, Durante.
Right.
I don't know if St. Selby's in the mix there, too.
24
Actually ran pretty good.
Mambo, running against much better horses here. Thought he was a little interesting, but I agree with you. I thought this was a very, very tricky race as well. We'll see what happens in race number 4. We'll take a break. We'll be back with the late pick 4. And, of course, while you're on the break, opt in over at Naira Bets for the $5,000 hit and split in the late pick 5. I'll be doing it.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, sponsored and brought to you by Saratoga Springwater. Greg Wolf, Andy Serling. I'm excited about race number 5 because I'm going to really crush the Robbie Davis, Amir Shishakli exacta box.
I'm interested to hear why you have 13 Red Flags second.
I think
Because I do too.
I think she's a horse to beat. I think she's absolutely on paper the horse to beat.
I do too.
Yeah,
So why is she second?
Well, because I have an idea and a horse and a price.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be fair. This is not
best-
exactly a barn that you can trust a great deal.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to be mean, but I mean, let's show 13 Flags maiden win, the only fast track race.
Exactly my point. yeah.
I'm sorry. This horse runs this race.
I agree with you.
And this horse is going to be very tough to beat in here. I don't think there's any real argument. This horse's race, when she was in a field, she could win. And it's not even a dry track, wet track thing as much. Just over her head last time. But dry track doesn't hurt. And what's not to like? I mean, unless you have an issue with the connections. And the thing is, if connections didn't matter, this horse would be 2-1 in here.
But they do.
They do.
And that's part of the problem.
But if she's 9-2,
Yeah. No, look, I agree with I think she is the horse to beat as well. I have her second. As you mentioned, that was the only fast track effort, and it was the best figure of anybody in the field. And so if, again, she can move forward off that, coming out of a
run
much
it,
tougher
she can
company,
win.
I agree with you. Having said that, I'll get to my pick in a minute, but go ahead.
no, I have nothing against her. I just have an idea on a pricier horse.
Okay.
That's the only reason I picked the other horse. I have absolutely no reservations about. I mean, yes, it is a barn that doesn't win very often, but this is a barn that won with her. It's not like she wasn't training the horse when the horse won. So I'm not really sure why. And she had no chance in her last race. So I don't know. The other thing is, remember about her last race, she was running against the boys last time, for whatever that's worth. I mean, it should be mentioned. So I don't have a problem with her. I think she's the horse to beat in this race. And because of connections, she's going to be a bigger price. And, like Solo Shot, she wins, I lose. For me, I think she's turned into the horse they thought she was before her first start. I think that George Weaver was right about her to begin with.
She's just facing better.
Okay, she's been. Let me tell you something. Her
She's
last
been
race was
terrible.
not a particularly good field. There was a maiden that finished third in there that may not even be favored in the last race on Saturday.
Okay.
So I'm not, that was a big purse race, but it came up very slow.
Yeah.
She's been awful.
I agree.
And the other thing is, isn't there supposed to be at least an honest pace in this race?
Yes, there is.
So I don't want
You're
her at all.
hoping she returns to who she was 3-4 starts ago.
Right. I think if you don't like the 8, I'm surprised. I'm curious about this. I think that Sweet Brown Sugar is actually. I think the horse to beat is between Sweet Brown Sugar and the 8 horse in this race, 13 Red Flags. What is your problem with Sweet Brown Sugar?
It's not. I had her in the mix earlier on. I wound up switching in here. I think she's very dangerous off those first couple of starts, without question. And she had a minor excuse in that last start.
She
but
had no shot in that race anyway.
I'll get to my 3 in a minute. But
No,
no,
get there.
I think she's a player for sure.
No, I don't like Sohan at all. So I'm curious why you like her.
So Sohana, look, that day she was forward. Track trends that you put together say, speed was dominant that afternoon.
Rail was good.
Rail potentially could have been an advantage that day. And she gutted it out, though. I like the fact that she did gut it out. I always give someone extra credit when you win first time out. One that came back behind her, came back to win next time out, Mel's baby sister. She improved 5 buyer points at the same level.
But Princess Vino, who was third, did not.
Yeah, but you can play that game all day long. But at least the one she beat.
Okay, but the
improved
horse who
and
was
won.
just behind her in third, my argument is there's no depth, there's nothing definitive that says it was a better race than it looks because one ran well, one ran poorly.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. But I expect to see a Brad Cox filly move forward in the second start of her career. And you look at the work tab, she hasn't missed a work since that win. including that huge work
That was a
on
good
that
work.
Belmont training track, quickest of 108. I'm taking off that performance, even though I know speed
That's
maybe was
fair.
beneficial. She is going to step forward today.
It's a very good work. If she runs to that work, she can win. If she runs to a race, I don't think she has a prayer. I hear you.
No, she has to improve, no
She
question.
has to improve, is my feeling. Okay, Bustin' Time. I got a lecture from David Aragona, and I respect David's opinion. I'm just sort of joking about how tiny a horse she is, and she is a bit of a tiny thing, but so is randomized. And the other thing, the 8's a gargantuan horse. We were sort of joking about it. He's right. The 8's a very big horse. Okay, she got a 51 buyer, which obviously isn't winning this, but that was her first start 4 months ago. So she has every right to improve from that. And if you look through the field, horses have come out. She's the only horse that wired the field that day at Delaware, so she's not a horse that took advantage of a bias. Every other horse was not a speed horse that won. The second horse won back with a 12 buyer point improvement. The third was a first-time starter who ran a 29 in this race, a 38 in the subsequent start, and a 56 in the subsequent start to that. I thought this horse actually ran pretty well in there, and she was claimed out of her last start. I can't read my writing, but not claimed by Robbie, and not even claimed by this owner. So I don't know how she ends up with Robbie. I understand that Robbie doesn't win a lot of races. What are the horses that he's running in his barn that are competitive in the races they're in? They have that one filly that did okay, Hallelujah.
And that's what Jackie.
And I'm just saying, it's not like Robbie is running a lot of 3-to-1 shots and 2-to-1 shots that are supposed to win. They're not winning. I have a very big positive ROI with Robbie. Robbie and Jackie once on the turf, I think long before he even got here, I made a score, like $38 at Belmont. So I'm way ahead with Robbie. I think this is an interesting horse. It is a race that has plenty of speed. I don't know if this horse can clear. But I think that Maiden Win is a lot better than it looks, has some time to improve, and I want to take a shot with this horse. I'm not overly confident. I'm going to use the 2, 6, and 8 here.
Maiden 20 at Delaware.
I know, but horses came back and improved out of that race.
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing. They got it wrong running a New York bred for $20,000 at Delaware, and somebody was smart enough to buy her.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
what's
true.
taken place, that it's gone from there to the connections it has now. I don't know if this horse sold for more money. I don't know if there's a story, but I just thought this horse was a little bit interesting in here. I thought that was somebody texted me to let me know what the story was. I got to bet this horse.
Okay.
I'm committed. I'm excited about this race. I just think it's a funny kind of. We'll be on the air together. So
Yeah.
No, we won't. Actually, it's right before we come on.
Yeah, we come on for the
We will
6th.
be on for this race, and we'll start with Hero's Medal. You have on top. My problem with this horse is not that he's not the horse to beat. He just doesn't win.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to rack up the L's for sure. But, I mean, this race doesn't need improvement really to win here unless someone steps up or if this Chad Brown first-timer winds up being decent. This could be a pretty difficult effort, I think, to try and beat for most of these in here. At least at this distance, I think shortening up to the 7/8 might be perfect for this horse, too.
I agree with all that stuff. I like shortening up. I think he's the horse to beat in this race. Thought the rail was good. Horse was outside last time. I have no problem with this horse. I just don't like the fact he doesn't win. And pricing power was in a race. Power Seeker's pretty good. He's actually still running around here now. And this was a race that pretty much fell apart. The other speed finished 7th in this race, came back and ran 13 buyer points better in the next start. I know Pricing Power's been out a long, long time. I have known nothing about this horse. I actually spoke to Chad Brown yesterday. I don't think we had one conversation around that involved any single horse at any point during the conversation. But I just thought this was an interesting horse that could wire this field here. Kind of like a first-time starter, and we've seen Chad win with a 5-year-old firster recently. This was a 5-year-old. They bring this horse back, so it's not like they don't, they're spending a lot of time to bring him back. And even the first-time starter scares me. I mean, there's an okay dirt horse in there, and Into Mischief. They paid an awful lot of money for Claire Quilty.
Unraced Dam, who did produce a 9-time winner, 6 of those on synthetic, by the way.
Who's Claire Quilty? It's
Don't know.
It's not the famous Quilty from Lolita.
There also was a
look
stakes-winning
this up.
sprinter on the turf the Dam produced. So, yeah, protectively, yes, got to use. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, it is. It's Claire Quilty is the protagonist in Lolita.
Okay.
I just knew by the last name. I didn't realize that the first name. Clearly never read Lolita. Never read Lolita?
I saw it.
Which one? The Kubrick?
The original. Yeah.
Great movie.
Disturbing.
It's a disturbing story. I'm going to go sort of, I have the 3 second. What about Excellent Men in here? We'll take a look at his last race. I feel like he's coming out of a race that he ran pretty well in. The winner made a big move, I think, to win this for Rick. The winner was the Mott horse, I'm sorry. He's back on Saturday. I don't know. I just don't trust him. And I thought he was a little slower than a horse like Heroes Medal, who's just a better horse.
And I'm a little worried about the 7 for him.
Okay.
4-year-old's not, by the way, in this maiden special.
We're not running 3-year-olds against 4-year-olds yet. It doesn't usually happen until March or something. I didn't think this horse was impossible, but I also didn't think he'd get the lead in here. We'll see. And Pricing Power does have to get the 7 as well. Thought it was an interesting race. You like anybody towards the bottom? You have Andy Cant.
I do have Andy Cant.
I can't.
Another one. I have the 2 in here who've racked up all these L's as my top 2 in here. Andy Cant, I have second. I mean, this horse, if you go back 3, 4, 5 starts back, this monster work that decimates this field hasn't reproduced it. That was at Oaklawn. This horse has talent, though. Maybe it's just one of those horses for Mott. It's taken a little bit of time to try and figure out. This horse has ability.
He's just had so many chances.
Yes.
And the
Over
4
12.
seconds and short prices. I hear you. He's good enough to win the race. I just feel like he's had a million chances.
And he's what, 4 to 1? Okay.
I thought race number 7 was a very, 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 very difficult race. And that was even knowing that the number 2 Radio Red, if people are wondering about Radio Red, it's the equine herpes situation. And the Danny Gargan barn was obviously the one affected. It also affected, I think, I'm not sure of all the horses, of some other stables. And that's why there's some scratches on today's card. And also, I think if you want to ship from Laurel, you have to remain. And that quarantine will be in effect for, I think, 2 weeks from Sunday.
Okay.
So we'll look at your horse first, factually correct. How's he going to win today?
So, yeah, you look at this horse and you say, well, the presence of his stablemate makes things incredibly difficult, right? Tefusky Island, not to mention
What about Capone?
A couple others in here as well. But this horse has shown the ability to
rated here.
sit off and be effective and win. He's coming off the best figure of his life, and I understand speed was very good that day.
Speed was very good.
But go 2, 3 starts back. 3 starts back, he was actually moving forward in a direction as they were getting him back on dirt. I know it was a race that came off where he was trending in a big direction going forward anyway. And he sat off the pace in that performance. That next start when he got beat, pretty good horse named Disarmed who won that race for the level. That was a 9-day comeback, which I can excuse him that performance. Shadow Dragon, who he just beat as well, was second in the Holy Bull. A horse who was a pretty good Mott horse, New York bred. And even going way back to, they wound up going on the turf with him. When he was early on in his career, this horse, he was third to Mariachi and General Banker in his dirt debut, which was his second overall start. Mama's Gold was in that race. That Chad Summers horse who ran a couple of huge buyer numbers in the 90s.
He's run 2 horrible races in a row.
No,
they bet last time, and I have no idea why they were betting it last time.
But he has
I know
shown
I got suckered in 2 back. But
from the
last time.
beginning some real ability on dirt, and now I feel like even though, yes, speed was good that day, he's coming into his own now, and they found the right surface for him.
Listen, I don't like him, but I'm completely confused by this race, so I'm not knocking anybody in here. I won't be surprised by too many horses winning this race. I mean, even the horse in the rail. I'm not sure. I think, listen, I don't like Got Thunder, and David Aragona picked Got Thunder, and I respect David's opinion. Giants Fire's kind of impossible to make on paper, but
Yeah.
I think everybody else in here has a shot. It's going to be a bit of a price. I'm not going to knock him in here. And the thing is, he's 4 to 1 morning line. I don't like that. As far as Thrill of It, I don't love Thrill of It. He got the money last time. Last time was the time. But it's not as though his last race lives in isolation. And he's a horse that has the speed to put himself in contention, and he's fast enough. He'll get some pace to run at. He gets a good outside post. Yeah, this is a much tougher spot than last time. And I originally didn't want to pick this horse, but I started going through it and thinking there's going to be a lot of speed, which is going to make it tough for Capone, who's in very good form. Tefusky Island's another one. He's got to deal with him. I think both those horses can win. I've got him second and third, but I feel as though that pace can be tough. You like Factually Correct. I respect that. I didn't like him. Authorized just has to improve too much for me to win this race. You like Authorized a lot more than I do.
Authorized, this is horse that connects. It's Mott Claiborne.
Oh, it's Claiborne.
Homebred.
Right.
They were actually very high in this horse back as a 2-year-old, and
Well, he ran
obviously
very well.
missed a ton of time. and when he came back as a 4-year-old, was apparently working lights out. Comes back with first time sprinting, and runs the best figure of his career. And Leanna Williford said a lot of people think Curlins don't want to sprint.
Well, that's
Elite Power would say otherwise.
right.
I know it's a standalone, but this
No,
horse,
no,
the
no,
best
no.
performance this horse
No.
ever run was sprinting.
I'm not arguing that. Pedigrees get trainers in trouble all the time. And I understand. You see a Capote, and you see a Curlin, and that was same with the Elite Power, a horse that they definitely thought needed more distance. It turns out he's the best sprinter in the world. Arguably, literally the best sprinter in the world, and has proven it time and time again. There's frankly an argument that he could have been Horse of the Year last year, given the year that he had. He's been exceptional. And the argument for Authorize, I agree, is they finally sprinted him. And he ran his best race. He's still got to improve off that race to win here, doesn't he?
I mean, a little bit. I
little.
don't think he has to move that much forward.
No, but he has to improve a little bit. I just feel like he's such a last time was the time horse. But listen, maybe he's a sprinter that's running.
He got a bigger figure on thorough-wise than he did Buyer-wise.
Okay. How do they have? Okay, listen. Thoroughgraphs love the winner of the. That was so interesting because you told me before the race the winner of the Heavy D. The horse who won the Withers. You told me before the race. We were on the show, and you said, I think on the air, but you even said off camera, this horse stands out of the figs. And then I saw Eddie Barker the next day, and he had liked the horse, and he said, stand out in the Thoroughgraphs. And I told him that you had told me the same thing, and he said, yet the Ragozin numbers, they didn't have him a contender, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, there are different ways, and saying that, not complimenting Thoroughgraphs and knocking Ragozin. There are different figures look at races in different ways, and sometimes one is right and the other is wrong. There's no consistency to who's right and who's wrong. There are just different ways to look at races. That was a very fun race, race number 7. Very, very competitive. Race number 8 is one that was really affected by the situation because #Lucky's not running and Carol Girl is
Completely
not running.
changed, yeah.
Major players. Now, as far as timeout, I got to scratch a horse in my paper. Timeout is running on tomorrow. So you knew, if you looked at tomorrow, you knew that she was coming out. You and I both end up with Whistler Style. We're looking at her last race, beating Halo City, who's coming back on short
Huge
rest in here.
standout, isn't she?
I mean, with the scratches in here, I'm not trying to beat this horse.
To me, 4 of her last 5 races easily win here.
I hate the idea of leaning so heavily on one horse and it's the last race of a sequence. But judging by how difficult some of these other races, and I think it's a fun card today. I really do.
Agree.
I think those races we've talked about, I've enjoyed. The fact that you and I completely disagree in a lot of races, which I like that. That just means there's a lot going on in them because we're seeing the races differently, and I have great respect for your opinion. This one, gosh, I know it's David Jacobson. She's just supposed to beat these horses.
She really is. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, she's very capable at the distance. She shows up. She runs her race. Now, that last start, you can say, okay, she didn't last start.
What chance
It's way
does she
tougher
have
group
in that
against
field?
that group.
I mean, Ferris Harvey 1-9. And Icy Reply. Okay, we'll go 2 back for Icy Reply. If Icy Reply, who has 5 wins in 14 seconds, refines this race, she can win. I think this is the only race that gives any, other than if Whistler Style shows up
And it was
with
at
any
6
kind of
furlongs,
effort
by the
closer
way.
to a race 2 back. Right. And she's coming back off a pitiful effort, much better horses, but a pitiful effort. I don't love her and trust her, and I even picked Run Devil second in this race.
She's the speed now, isn't she?
She is the speed, along oddly with her entry mate. So what are they going to do with the entry? What are they going to do, right? They're going to duel each other in submission? Hard to believe.
I think she's going to be. I don't know.
It's a tricky thing because she can win and the entry mate's a little tough to make.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out. I'm not trying to beat Whistler Style in this race.
And I'm Buzzy a reclaim for Pat Reynolds, so I'm not as worried about claiming off Luna Rice because he had this one in good form too.
Yes, but she still has to run better than she did to beat these horses. And I don't really feel like she's a miler. I feel
That's
like
the
she's
big question.
better
That's the
going
big
short.
question.
She's a closing sprinter type that's better going shorter.
Yeah.
And she beat some very hungry fields in her last couple of races. But she's in good form.
That's fair.
All right, we're done. Greg and I will be back, though, on America's Day at the Races at 3 o'clock later today. You will be heading over to Naira Bets, and you will be getting yourself all set up to get involved in the $5,000 hit and split. This does not feel like a late pick 5 that's going to pay a little bit. Because other than the favorite in the last, I don't think there are super short prices in it.
It is tough.
Seems like a pretty wide open races. Use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have track stats. Head over to Naira Bets to check those out. Joel Rosario is thinking about him while he's riding whoever that is he's on, that gray with the hearts. We have a $5,000 hit and split, the late pick 5, opt-in over at Naira Bets. Takes about a nanosecond. I did it while we were in break. And cross-country pick 5, 6, 7, 8 here, 8 and 9 at Oaklawn as well. Races will be covering America's Day at the Races from 3 to 6, covering the action from here and Oaklawn from 3 to 6 on FS2. Thanks a lot, Greg.
Had fun.
I'll see you in a little while. It was great. A lot of fun. Always fun when we can disagree. And I think it helps to have a card that's, when you have cards that aren't that interesting, you end up agreeing more because there just aren't that many places to go. And I feel like in this card, there's a lot of places to go in races. Good luck today. Chris Griffin, he's getting warmed up for another big day here at Aqueduct as we kick off the week in just 38 minutes. Good luck.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.